What up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Mr. Haddock here, and what a great day to learn some science. What I would like you to do is make sure that you have your online notebook open in a separate tab and be ready to take some quality notes on lesson 4.2, which we are diving into the circulatory system. I will give you a fair warning that this information is quite detailed, so please make sure that you take quality notes because you can use them on any standard assessment or exam. So let's get started with an introduction of the circulatory system. The first thing I want to talk about is that humans and vertebrates have a closed circulatory system. A closed circulatory system means that the blood is closed at all times within vessels of different sizes and wall thickness. So the blood is not exposed at all. It is always within vessels within the organism. The blood travels around and through the body over and over. It continues going through in a system. It does not ever leave the system unless there is damage to the system. There are three parts of the circulatory system. There's the heart, the blood vessels, and the blood. Let's take a look at the hierarchy of this specific system. So the cells that are within this system are white blood cells, red blood cells, platelets, and cardiac muscle cells. So those are the cells within this system. Then these cells form together to form tissues, which would be in the form of blood, cardiac tissue, and blood vessels. The organs within the circulatory system are the heart, the aorta, and the vena cava. And then the entire body system itself is classified as the circulatory system. The organ that I want to talk about right now is the heart. So the heart is located slightly left of center in your upper chest. It is roughly the size of your fist. If you were to close your fist like you're going to punch something, that is roughly the size of your heart. It is a hollow pump, and it's mainly composed of cardiac muscle. It contracts involuntarily, which means that you don't have to think about it, between 70 and 90 times per minute, depending on the individual, and that can go up or down based on the need. So obviously, if an organism is exercising or exerting itself, the heart needs to pump more blood through, and therefore it'll pump more times per minute. It pumps around 70 milliliters of blood with each and every single beat. One thing that I want to explain is that blood doesn't flow in like a smooth, like a river would flow, but rather in pulses. Okay, so blood flows in pulses along with the heartbeat, and you can feel that if you were to ever check your pulse in your neck or your wrist. You'll feel those pulses of blood being pushed through the vessels throughout your body. The structure of the heart, now this is where we get a little bit more complex and into some detail. The heart is made up of 4 chambers. There are 2 atria, the left atrium and the right atrium, which are at the top, and the atria receive blood. There are 2 ventricles at the bottom, and the ventricles are responsible for pumping the blood throughout the body. The left and the right side are separated by a muscle called a septum. Okay, this is to separate the sides of the heart. The atria and the ventricle are connected by valves that only let blood flow in one direction. So these valves prevent blood from flowing in the wrong direction, which would be highly dangerous for an organism. Blood on the right side of the heart is within the right atrium and the right ventricle. That is oxygen poor blood, which means there's not very much, if any, oxygen at all in the blood. Whereas the left atrium and the left ventricle are oxygen rich. Okay, so that means that they have oxygen molecules attached to the red blood cells, giving it a brighter, more vibrant red color. The pathway of blood is as follows. So the blood is collected from the body and flows into the right atrium through the vena cava. Once it's there, then it moves on to a contraction, or a contraction moves it through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. Okay, and once it's in the right ventricle then pumps the blood into the lungs through the pulmonary arteries, where it is then the blood is able to then pick up some oxygen from the lungs. That newly oxygenated blood comes back from the lungs and enters the left atrium from the pulmonary valves, where then the blood passes through the mitral valve and into the left ventricle, and then a contraction of the left ventricle sends the blood out to the body through the aorta. So you can go back to that picture and kind of trace the way that the blood flows through the heart based on this pathway. So I would actually recommend taking some time and finding a good labeled picture or diagram on Google of a heart and the way blood flows through it to copy and paste into your notes to study and have as as reference. The next organ within this system is blood vessels. There are 3 different types of blood vessels. There are arteries, there are veins, and there are capillaries. Okay, I think sometimes in everyday language, arteries and veins are used interchangeably, when in reality they are different. I don't really see capillaries being misused too much. So here is a great diagram of the different blood vessels and how they are different. Okay, so let's start with arteries. These are large vessels. Arteries carry blood away from the heart, which means that it is typically oxygenated. There's oxygen on those red blood cells. The only time that it is not oxygenated is when it's going to the lungs. Arteries have thick, strong walls so that it can withstand the pumping of the heart, that pressure that builds up in those veins. So they need to be strong in order for them not to burst and cause hemorrhaging. The aorta is the largest artery and carries blood exiting the left ventricle of the heart. Now, on the other side are veins. Veins actually have a valve-like structure to allow blood to flow in only one direction, quite useful. Veins carry blood to the heart. Okay, they carry blood to the heart, usually carrying blood that does not have much oxygen or oxygen-depleted blood, except the only time that they will carry oxygen-rich blood would be when they are returning blood from the lungs, obviously, because that blood has just been oxygenated. Veins are typically found near skeletal muscles, which are able to contract and force the blood along. And then the largest vein in your body is the vena cava, and that returns blood to the right atrium of the heart. Now, in the middle are capillaries. Capillaries are extremely small. Okay, they're way smaller than arteries or veins. There are thousands of capillaries throughout your body, it's like a mesh that connects the arteries and the veins. This is what allows it to travel into those little crevices to get to all the different cells throughout your body. What they do is capillaries are where uh, gas like oxygen and carbon dioxide enter and exit the blood, as well as waste from your cells can enter the blood. And then that waste can be taken to the proper location for your body to dispose of it. So oxygen, carbon dioxide, transit or exchange happens within capillaries, as well as waste enters the blood system through capillaries as well. So what is specifically blood? I know that, I don't know about you, but a lot of people get freaked out, and myself included, when I see like a lot of blood. As I've gotten older, I have gotten more accustomed to it. It doesn't bother me nearly as much, but blood is made up of 4 components. There is a plasma, which is the medium that it is all in. It is roughly 55% of blood by volume. Then there are red blood cells, white blood cells, which are a part of the immune system as well, and then platelets, and we'll talk about each of those. So what are red blood cells? Red blood cells are the most numerous type of blood cell. They outnumber white blood cells. They're responsible for carrying oxygen throughout the body to your cells. They are red in color from iron in the hemoglobin. So, if some people might be iron deficient, and if they are, then they might struggle to carry oxygen to the cells in their body, and as a result, they might be more fatigued. But iron is what gives red blood cells their color. Red blood cells are made in bone marrow, and their lifespan is about 4 months, so before they are replaced. And they are shaped like a flat cup. And you can see the GIF there in the top right hand corner that kind of helps show you the shape. Then we have white blood cells. White blood cells protect the body. They fight bacteria and viral infections, or anything that doesn't necessarily belong in the body. So when you get sick, white blood cells are the ones to assist you. They obviously increase in numbers when they are needed. So like if you are sick, then your white blood cell count will go up. There's several different types of white blood cells, and they're listed over there to the left, and each of them has a different role. And lymphocytes create antibodies to help fight infection in your body. And then other types of white blood cells actually dissolve or ingest the invading pathogens. So, just an interesting little fact there. We're not going to go into that much detail about what each and every single one of them does, but there's just a little tidbit. The lymphocytes are what create those antibodies. Plasma and platelets, there's really not too much about them that you're going to need to know. The plasma, when separated, is like a golden color, almost like hay that you would find at a farm. It's roughly 90% water, and then the other 10% is various proteins and nutrients and dissolved gases that are dissolved within the plasma. And then platelets are very tiny. They're colorless and they're shaped like discs. And they don't have a nucleus, but what they do is they actually aid in allowing your body to clot or stop bleeding. So if you get a cut on your hand or you scrape your knee or whatever, platelets are responsible for your body's natural defense mechanism to stop the bleeding. And platelets stick to the edge of the wound. they start from the edge and then they work their way in to form a clot and stop the bleeding. Really, really cool and fascinating to watch platelets at work. Some people don't necessarily, or you know, their body doesn't clot, so like they could be at risk of a blood loss if they have a particular type of cut, just because they might not have a lot of platelets or their platelets aren't working properly, things like that. So this is the end of the notes. I know that there was a lot of information that you needed to type. I'm sure you paused a couple times during the video. But my work here is done. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I will see you tomorrow.